Chapter 29, Missed. Pediatric Cardiology Department Office. Xiao Xian stopped, turned around, and said, "This is the place." Xiao Ligua and Eugenia immediately walked forward. Pediatric Cardiology Department? Are you sure it's in here? Just now the nurse said it was here. Luckily that day after seeing Du Rua, she turned back, hid in a far-away place, always following her, only then saw her enter this hospital, waited for a long time but still didn't see her come out, then left. Coincidentally, a doctor came out from the office. "Excuse me, is Du Rua here?" Eugenia stopped the doctor, her eyes still constantly looking into the office. "Oh, Dr. Du," he pointed towards the operating room, "she's in the operating room." The doctor greeted the three people sitting waiting on the hallway chairs. The three people looked at each other for a moment. Du Rua was of course a doctor, after hearing that she entered the hospital, in fact. They all secretly prayed that she would be seriously ill, so that the property would be theirs. Eugenia laughed angrily and said, "I don't know, how long will the surgery take?" "Hey. Calculating, it's not too accurate, but Dr. Du just came in not long ago, it will probably take 7 or 8 hours. So long?" Xiao Ligua also felt that he had overreacted, unnaturally fixing his clothes. That doctor looked at them strangely, hurriedly said that he had something to finish, and left. "Why are you in such a hurry? It's good to get the phone number." Eugenia frowned as she looked at the doctor's back as he walked away, scratching her head in annoyance. "Let's go, if we know she's working here, we can go over tomorrow." Xiao Ligua let out a breath, lifted his feet and ran. Eugenia felt a little uneasy, there wasn't much time, but Xiao Ligua had already left without looking back, she had no choice but to stomp her feet and follow. But in fact, Xiao Xian walked a few steps, turned her head to look, and still felt a little uneasy in her heart. Xian, go quickly." From ahead came Eugenia's call. Xiao Xian laughed at herself, she might just be a little uneasy because of her father's matter. Wu Tingfei and Huang Xinwei hugged each other tightly, looking forward to the door of the operating room. The sound of Wu's mother chanting Buddhist scriptures could still be heard in their ears. Old Master Wu also sat on the side with his eyes closed to rest, but his hands clasped together in front of his stomach, showing that his inner self was not calm. "Dad, you and Mom go downstairs for a bit, and eat by the way." Wu Tingfei looked at his watch, it was only past 4 o'clock, there was probably still half a day left, worried that the old man's body could not take it. "No need, 1 meal, 2 meals without eating won't starve to death, I have to stay here to watch over my grandson." Wu's mother finished speaking, and started chanting Buddhist scriptures again. Wu Tingfei still wanted to persuade them, but Huang Xinwei stopped him. "Dad and Mom normally love Xiaoji so much, they won't leave." Wu Tingfei had no choice but to give up. Suddenly, the door of the operating room opened. The Wu family was a little shocked. How come it happened so fast? Huang Xianwei tightly grabbed Wu Tingfei's shirt. "Is there an accident?" Even her voice was trembling. Wu Tingfei was also a little shocked. At this moment he could see, it was still the calmest old man Wu. Seeing the joy on the doctor's face, he knew it wasn't something bad. He quickly walked forward. "Doctor, how is it? Was my grandson's surgery successful?" The doctor nodded excitedly. "The surgery was 100% successful, congratulations." "Husband, they said the surgery was successful, our Xiaoji will be a healthy child." Huang Xianwei cried and laughed, wanting Wu Tingfei to confirm. Wu Tingfei was also so excited that he couldn't speak, but he nodded. "When can we go see the child?" Wu Tingfei anxiously looked inside the operating room. "The child has been transferred to the ward, wait until the child wears off the anesthesia, then you can go see the child." "Doctor, thank you very much." Wu Tingfei tightly held the doctor's hand. "Haha, you should thank Dr. Du." The doctor's mouth was full of praise. It was unexpected that such a young girl could perform surgery so fluently, it really opened people's eyes. "Doctor, where is Dr. Du?" Huang Xianwei looked around but didn't see anyone. "Looking for me?" Du Rua had a habit of cleaning herself up after surgery, so she came out late. The doctor wisely left first. Du Rua finally came out from the Wu family crowd who were moved to tears. She just returned to the temporary office in the hospital, everyone stood up to congratulate. Congratulations to you, Dr. Du. A doctor who looked to be only over 30 years old, smiled brightly to congratulate Du Rua. Thank you, it's still everyone's support. Walking in together, Du Rua maintained a smile like a spring breeze. The child's next situation still needs to ask everyone to take care of it more. Next, if there is no situation, Du Rua may not need to come. After all, the remaining work is just some post-surgery recuperation. The doctors all nodded, feeling satisfied in their hearts. They had been surpassed by that little girl. Although their abilities were not as good as hers, they were still human. When they encountered this kind of situation, when they worked together, there was nothing wrong, but afterwards, they would feel unable to suppress the emotions that arose. Du Rua was neither arrogant nor impatient. What she said made everyone feel a lot more at ease. The phone rang, as if she already knew who it was, smilingly picked up the phone. Have you had lunch yet? Chishan was stunned for a moment. Actually, he had some free time and just happened to try to see if he could get through to his wife's phone, but he didn't expect it to actually get through. She looked at the time. Not yet, just came out of the operating room. She nodded and smiled at a doctor who came over. Aren't you going to ask if my surgery was successful? Her voice carried a bit of intimacy. Who is my wife? Do you still want to ask about this? A face full of stinking. The person beside him who was resting disdainfully glanced at the boss who was leaning against the wall and laughing so boldly. For their own future, he showed a worried expression. You say from cold face to evil, what exactly is the transformation? So smart, as expected of the father of 3 little babies. She happily laughed out loud. He remembered Chihao's face when he was flattering. His face was black, could he not want to? Hurry up and eat when she wanted to hang up the phone. I'll be back tonight, wait for me. The voice suddenly became hoarse. She hung up the phone, stood there, in a flash her whole face turned red. It seemed like she could still hear the happy laughter of the man on the other end, shouted, looked left and right a bit, patted her hot face, quickly packed up and went home. Dr. Du, please wait a moment. She stopped, turned around and saw that the young doctor was running towards her, panting. So weak. In her heart, she secretly mocked, if it was her Chishan with 3 children on his back, he would run faster than him. What's the matter? Headache, maybe feeling that his movements were a bit silly, immediately forced a smile, put down his hand. It's this matter. This morning 3 people came to find you, I forgot to tell you earlier. 3 people? She repeated doubtfully. That's right, 2 of them are middle-aged men and women, one is a young girl around 20 years old. The man looks very elegant, the 2 women also look very similar. Elegant? Mother and child? Gentle? Middle-aged? Next is Chow family? Her eyebrows furrowed, her index finger unconsciously tapped on the table. Finally they were about to meet, but in her heart she did not have the mentality of being lucky enough to not be found by the Chow family for the rest of her life. She put on her earphones and called Jiang Shaoxian. Oh my god, playing with 3 little devils is really more tiring than training those brats. Coming out of the 3 children's room, Chishan groaned and leaned against Du Rua, returning to the living room. Grandpa Chi and Father Chi also looked at that lazy thing with disdain, feeling dissatisfied in their hearts because this brat had just returned today and had already stolen the attention of 3 little darling, not caring about calculating. That brat was showing off after getting a bargain. Haha, children are full of energy, that proves their bodies are healthy. Mother Chi was very satisfied and handed the cup of tea to her daughter-in-law, still a well-raised daughter-in-law, like other children, extremely weak, going to the hospital at the slightest thing. Du Rua and Chishan looked at each other and smiled. In the eyes of the 3 old men at home, their 3 children were 360 degrees flawless. Du Rua gently took a sip of tea, thought for a moment. Grandpa, Mom and Dad, today I heard that someone came to the hospital to look for me. I think the Chow family must have come knocking. After hearing this, everyone looked at each other. They were extremely disdainful towards the Chow family, but they were worried that their daughter-in-law would not say anything more. However, these past few years, they watched from the side. It seemed that their daughter-in-law did not have any feelings towards the Chow family. Even before getting married, she was unwilling to tell the Qiao family. They were elders, but they actually considered the big picture and advised them. However, the daughter-in-law's words, "I am marrying into the Qi family as a descendant of the Du family," made them feel that there was nothing to blame. These past few years, they still thought so. Father Qi and Grandfather Qi glanced at each other, took off their glasses, and put down the newspaper in their hands. "Xiao Rua, what do you plan to do?" "Dad, I still say the same thing. I am now just the daughter of the Du family, the daughter-in-law of the Qi family. As for the Qiao family, no matter what happens, it is none of my business." As for her identity, Du Rua knew very clearly. The working style of the daughter-in-law, Father Qi has always appreciated, although I know that Xiao Ligua has a problem, but I haven't found out the specifics yet, but recently someone told me, "There are always people asking about you." She smiled and shook her head, "Although I don't know what the problem is, however, this kind of time to find me, it's obviously related to money. I'm afraid there's a lot of embezzlement." Grandfather Qi waved his hand, "No matter how they are, you just need to do as you please. If anything happens, there's still the Qi family here to help. The sky won't fall." Father Qi also nodded, "Ah. Your grandfather is right, if there's anything you need help with, just ask." Mother Qi also reached out to brush Du Rua's hair behind her ear, smiling and nodding. "What's wrong?" Qishan amusedly stroked the soft hair. He just lay down on the bed. Du Rua lay beside him, and buried her face in his chest. She shook her head. It was hard to say that she felt that marrying him was really good. There was old above, young below, truly happy. Looking at the white jade-like ears that were red, the smile in his eyes increased a bit. "You don't have to say it, I also know. Are you moved by everyone, feeling that marrying me is very right?" Carrying a bit of childish boasting. Being teased like this, she felt a bit more at ease. She lifted her pretty little face, smiling and looking at that person. "It's not wrong. Actually, they don't want you to do anything, you just need to bring their child, who is also your husband, for me to serve well, that's enough." His nose rubbed against her face, hugging her back, speaking hoarsely in her ear, carrying infinite temptation. Frowning, "But seduce her?" She chuckled softly. It seemed like she was really seduced. Backing away, tilting her head, just happened to kiss his Adam's apple. He immediately became completely stunned, just like that, staring blankly at her, forgetting the next move. She raised her head to look at a certain person who was foolishly, because she had scared someone, she felt extremely happy, couldn't help but lower her head and happily smiled. He quickly recovered his spirit, childishly saying, "Wife, I still want." "Oh?" She suddenly raised her head to look at his deep and profound eyes, almost falling into his whirlwind gaze. "I still want." Compared to before, it was even more hoarse. She seemed to be bewitched, kissing his Adam's apple, licking his warm tongue. Another endless night.